Hello and welcome to another episode of Cluster Fudge, the podcast where we peel back the layers of the modern mess we call life. I'm your host, Alexandra, and today's episode is one for the digital age. We're talking about artificial intelligence, specifically voice cloning, synthetic voices, AI-generated speech, whatever you want to call it. It's here, it's real, and it's stirring up a legal, ethical, and emotional storm. People are suing, people are scared. Some are downright furious. But me, personally, I don't have a problem with it. Not yet anyway. How about you? How do you feel about AI being able to mimic your voice? Perfectly. Reproduce it without your permission. Use it in ways that might range from hilarious to horrifying. Let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning. What exactly is voice cloning? In simple terms, voice cloning is the process of using artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to create a synthetic version of a human voice. It's not just any robotic monotone voice. No, this is high-fidelity replication. It sounds just like you. Your tone, your pitch, your rhythm, your accent, your little quirks, all of it captured and mimicked with eerie precision. Now, how does it work? It all starts with data, like everything in AI. To clone a voice, you need samples of that voice. The more samples you have, the better quality and diversity of those audio clips, the more accurate and natural the clone will be. We're talking about recorded conversations, interviews, podcasts, YouTube videos, TikToks, voicemails, anything where your voice exists in a digital format. These voice samples are fed into deep learning models, particularly something called deep neural networks. Think of these networks like a brain-inspired algorithm. They study patterns in the voice, how you emphasize certain words, how you breathe, how your voice changes when you're excited, tired, or sarcastic. The AI analyzes all of this and starts building a model, a digital twin of your voice. From there, the model can be used to generate new audio that sounds like you, even if you never actually said those words. And here's the kicker. Modern systems don't need much data anymore. Early versions of voice cloning might have required hours of recorded speech. Today, with models like OpenAI's Whisper, Microsoft's Valley, or 11 Labs tools, we're talking minutes. Sometimes even seconds of audio can do the trick. The process has gotten fast, cheap, and disturbingly easy. Many companies now offer commercial voice cloning services. You upload a voice sample, type some text, and boom, your digital voice speaks it aloud. With just a laptop and the right app, anyone can replicate your voice and make it say things you never said. And it doesn't stop at speech. Some systems can add emotion. Want your clone to sound happy, furious, seductive, depressed? No problem. AI-generated voices are getting emotionally intelligent. They can shift tone and mood to make the voice sound even more human. In some cases, companies are now building interactive voice agents, AIs that talk like you and respond like you in real time. Imagine someone having a conversation with a synthetic version of you while you're asleep, on vacation, or 6 feet under. The underlying tech is called text-to-speech, TTS, powered by generative AI, the same kind of AI that's behind deepfakes, image generators, and even ChatGPT. It's not just imitating sound. It's generating language, emotion, and identity. And that brings us to a very important point. Voice is not just a sound, it's identity. It's how we express who we are. It's personal, it's intimate. And when someone else can duplicate it, use it, modify it, manipulate it, that opens up a Pandora's box of questions. So yes, the tech is fascinating, and yes, it's impressive. But as we'll explore in the next segments, it also raises some serious legal, ethical, and societal issues that we're only just beginning to understand. We're living in an era where your voice can now be downloaded, duplicated, and deployed. The question is, who gets to control it? Stay with me. All right, so now that we understand what voice cloning is and how it works, let's talk about what happens when it starts crossing lines. The legal lines, the ethical lines, the personal lines, because this isn't just science fiction anymore. This is happening right now. Real people are discovering that their voices, their actual literal identities, have been cloned and used without their permission. And as you might expect, some are not taking it lightly. In fact, they're taking it to court. So where are the lawsuits coming in? Let's start with the big one: unauthorized use and impersonation. In many cases, individuals have discovered that companies, or even other private users, have used publicly available voice clips to recreate their voice using AI tools. No consent, no payment, no warning. Imagine waking up one morning to find a video online of you promoting a product you've never heard of, or you calling someone a racial slur, or you confessing to a crime. That's the level of chaos we're talking about. In 2023 and 2024, several lawsuits and legal threats made headlines. Scarlett Johansson filed legal action against an app developer that used an AI-generated voice and image mimicking without consent in an advertisement. The likeness was never authorized, and the company had to pull it immediately. Drake and The Weeknd found themselves performing a song neither of them ever recorded, thanks to AI voice cloning. The song went viral on TikTok and Spotify before being pulled for copyright violations, but not before millions had streamed it. TikTokers, YouTubers, and even average citizens have reported their voices being used in deepfake prank calls, political ads, and scam robocalls. In fact, during the 2024 US elections, a robocall featuring a fake Joe Biden voice attempted to manipulate voters, which led to an FBI investigation and national uproar. So yes, lawsuits are absolutely coming, and then they're not just about copyright. They're touching on deeper, murkier areas of law: right of publicity, defamation, false endorsement, and data privacy. Let's break down some of these legal angles. Right of publicity. This refers to your legal right to control how your name, image, and voice are used commercially. If someone profits off your identity without your permission, you can sue. Several US states, like California and New York, have robust right of publicity laws, but others don't. And when your voice is cloned by a company operating out of a country with weaker protections, things get even messier. Defamation and false light. Let's say your cloned voice is used in a video where you say something inflammatory, maybe something racist, sexist, or criminal. That could damage your reputation, your career, or your personal relationships. That's grounds for a defamation lawsuit. But proving intent and harm in the age of AI? Not so easy. False endorsement brands are also in hot water. Some companies have used AI voices eerily similar to celebrities. Not the actual voice, but close enough to confuse or manipulate consumers. That's a legal landmine. It's one thing to do a parody or satire. It's another to deceive. And courts are starting to weigh in on that difference. Consent and privacy laws. Then there's the biggie, consent. In places like the EU, the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, is pretty clear. People have the right to know how their data is used, including biometric data like voice prints. But in the US, federal law is more patchy. Only a few states like Illinois, with its Biometric Information Privacy Act, actually require explicit consent before someone's voice can be captured or cloned. And yet AI voice companies are still operating in a Wild West environment, scraping YouTube, podcasts, and social media for vocal data, often without asking. And here's where it gets really scary. Some lawsuits are tied to criminal behavior, not just civil disputes. Voice cloning has been used in fraud schemes, like calling someone's family member and pretending to be their son or daughter in danger, demanding money. In one case, a mother was called by someone using her daughter's cloned voice, screaming and begging for help. It was a scam, but it was real enough to terrify her. This is psychological warfare. This is blackmail with a digital twist. And it's leading to lawsuits and demands for regulation across the globe. The legal system is struggling to catch up. The bottom line, the laws aren't ready for this. AI voice tech is moving faster than the courts, faster than Congress, faster than consumer protection agencies. Most lawmakers are still trying to understand what deepfakes are, let alone how to prosecute crimes involving them. The lawsuits we're seeing now, they're the tip of the iceberg. They're the first wave in what will likely become a flood of litigation around ownership, permission, reputation, and identity in the age of synthetic media. And the question becomes, how do we balance innovation with protection? Do we stop the tech altogether? Do we regulate it, license it, or do we do nothing and accept that our voices are now fair game? Coming up next, we're going to dive into something even more foundational. What it means when your voice, a piece of your very identity, is no longer just yours. Don't go anywhere. So we've talked about what voice cloning is and how the lawsuits are starting to stack up. But now let's get into the murkiest part of this conversation. Not the legal arguments, not the tech specs, but the ethics. Because laws can only go so far, and in many ways, the law is lagging behind. But what do we do in the meantime? How do we navigate this strange new frontier where what's legal and what's right don't always line up? Welcome to the ethical grey area. Let's start with a simple question. Is it wrong to clone someone's voice, even if you're not trying to hurt them? What if it's a tribute? What if it's a joke? What if it's educational? What if it's just for entertainment? These are the kinds of questions society is grappling with right now, because AI voice cloning isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's well-intentioned. Sometimes it's even beautiful. People are recreating the voices of loved ones they've lost just to hear them say, "I love you" again. Artists are bringing long-dead celebrities back to life for dramatic performances, audiobooks, or immersive museum exhibits. Developers are building AI assistants in the voice of Morgan Freeman or David Attenborough because, let's be honest, it sounds cooler than Siri. Is that unethical? Let's break it down. Consent versus intent. Here's the first big ethical tension. Is it okay to clone a voice if the person doesn't mind or isn't around to care? Let's say you create a podcast episode using the voice of someone who passed away 50 years ago. They never consented to it, obviously, but you're not doing it to profit or deceive. You just wanted to tell a story. Does that feel wrong? Now change the context. What if it's the voice of a living person, someone you know, and you use it as a prank? Still no profit, just laughs. Does that feel different? Ethically, intent matters, but so does consent, and when they conflict, we're left in a murky in-between. One person's tribute could be another person's violation. Here's another ethical dilemma. When we clone voices, we're not just playing with sound waves, we're playing with identity. A voice is personal. It carries our emotions, our upbringing, our trauma, our humour. It's how people recognise us, how we comfort our kids, how we fight, cry, flirt, sing. Cloning a voice isn't like copying a piece of text. It's not just data, it's personhood. And when that gets turned into a commodity, when it becomes something that can be bought, sold, licensed, edited, we start stripping it of its humanity. Think about it. If someone can own your voice, who owns you? This is where ethics diverge from law. Legally, companies may argue they have the right to use audio they found online, but ethically, that feels exploitative. That feels robotic. Another major ethical concern is the illusion of choice. Many people don't know their voices are being cloned, or worse, they were tricked into giving consent. Some voice actors, especially freelancers and contractors, are finding out after the fact that the voice work they did for one job is being used over and over again by AI models. Their likeness has been digitized, reassembled, and used in places they never agreed to. There's an ethical betrayal here, a broken social contract. These aren't just business transactions, they're trust violations, and we haven't even touched on kids yet. What happens when a child's voice is cloned and used in AI-generated content? Are they old enough to give consent? Can their parents sign away that right? What are the long-term consequences of digitizing someone's voice before they even understand what that means? The ethics spiral fast, and the deeper you go, the more unsettling it becomes. Let's shift focus from individuals to society. The ethical danger of voice cloning isn't just about impersonating someone you know. It's about creating a world where you can't trust your own ears. We're entering an age where you might hear your favorite celebrity endorse a product, and it's fake. You might hear a politician declare war, and it's fake. You might hear a confession, a threat, a rallying cry, all fake. And when that happens often enough, truth collapses. The real ethical threat of voice cloning is the erosion of reality itself. Because once everything can be faked, what's real? This affects democracy, journalism, national security, education, public trust, all of it. And while it's easy to say, well, that's just the internet, people should be more critical, the ethical burden doesn't fall on individuals alone. It falls on creators, platforms, developers, regulators, all of us. We need a collective code of ethics, not just laws, not just guidelines, but a conscience. Some say AI voice cloning is a tool, and like any tool, it's not inherently good or bad. It depends on the hands that wield it, and that's true. It can be used to help stroke victims speak again. It can narrate books for the blind in more natural tones. It can preserve endangered languages by recreating fluent speakers. There is beauty in this tech. There is redemption. But if we're not careful, if we ignore the ethical implications, then all we're left with is exploitation, deception, and noise. So where do you land on the ethical spectrum? Is this technology a gift or a curse? Should it be reserved only for certain uses, or should anyone have the right to clone any voice, any time, for any reason? That's the grey area. And in the next segment, we're going to make it even more personal. Because the truth is, it's not just about other people's voices. It's about yours. Okay, so let's take a breath. We've talked about the lawsuits, we've explored the ethical sinkhole, and we've acknowledged the dangers of voice cloning, how it can deceive, exploit, manipulate, and rob people of their agency. But now I want to pivot. Not because the concerns aren't real, they absolutely are. But because this segment is about wrestling with the uncomfortable middle ground, the place where skepticism and curiosity shake hands. Because here's my confession, I'm not mad. Not yet. Let's go back, way back, to the invention of photography. People were horrified. They said it would steal your soul. They said it would kill painting and portraiture. And in some ways, they were right. But it also gave us a new way to document history, connect across time and preserve memories. Then came recorded audio, then came film, then TV, then the internet, then social media. And with each wave, people panicked, and rightly so. Because every technology has a cost. Every advancement comes with baggage. But here's the truth that always lingers underneath. We don't stop technology. We adapt to it. And that's where my acceptance starts. Because the genie's already out of the bottle. Let's be brutally honest. Voice cloning is here. It's not emerging anymore. It's arrived. You can download tools right now, train them on a few minutes of someone's voice, and boom, you've got a vocal doppelganger. The technology is affordable, it's accessible, it's evolving at warp speed. There is no going back. So while lawsuits might slow it down and ethics might shape the conversation, we will not uninvent this. And since we can't rewind the tape, we have to ask a new question. How do we live with it? How do we shape its trajectory without losing our minds or our humanity? That's why I'm not angry. I'm focused. I'm watchful, but not angry. Because it's not all bad. Here's the part people don't like to admit. Even the skeptics, there's a lot of potential good in voice cloning. People who lose their voices to ALS or throat cancer can now create digital backups of how they used to sound, giving them a sense of identity and confidence in communication. Accessibility. Audiobooks can be narrated in familiar voices. Apps can customize tone to suit different users, and people with speech disorders may find new ways to express themselves. Creativity and legacy. Imagine a great-grandparent leaving behind bedtime stories for future generations, or a musician building harmonies with their younger self, or a teacher who passed away still being able to instruct and inspire through voice-based lessons. These are not dystopian dreams. They're here, and they're beautiful. That's why I'm not mad, because amidst all the risk, there's potential, and ignoring that does us no favours. Because some voices deserve to be immortal. Now let's get personal. We live in a world that forgets fast. Voices vanish, stories fade, legacies crumble, but with AI voice modelling, we can preserve them. Not just the words, but the warmth, the rhythm, the breath between sentences, the little laugh that says I love you without actually saying it. Think about people who were marginalised, who never got a platform, never got a stage, never got heard. AI gives us the ability to resurrect those voices, to let them speak in ways they never could before. That doesn't mean we should do it carelessly. But the potential is there to use this technology as an amplifier, not a thief. And that's why I'm still holding space for optimism. Here's what gives me the most peace. We adapt, always have, always will. When Photoshop emerged, people screamed that we'd never believe a photo again. But guess what? We learned to scrutinise, to look for signs, to ask smarter questions. When CGI became indistinguishable from reality, we didn't abandon film, we embraced the artistry. And when the internet made deepfakes and disinformation a daily threat, we didn't collapse. We started building detection tools, raising awareness, creating laws, even if they're slow to keep up. Voice cloning won't break us. It'll challenge us, yes, but it'll also force us to grow sharper, more critical, more intentional. And I believe in our ability to do that. Voice cloning, like every great leap in technology, will be what we make of it. It can be weaponized or humanized. It can erase us or elevate us. It can steal or it can give back. It's not the tech that determines that. It's us. And maybe, just maybe, if we stay informed, stay ethical and stay curious, we can turn this into something that's not just tolerable, but transformational. So we've taken a journey. We've broken down how voice cloning works. We've explored the lawsuits and the ethical grey areas. And I've even shared why I'm not personally alarmed just yet. But none of that matters if we end the conversation there. Because the real question, the urgent one, is, now what? What are we supposed to do about all of this? Let's get into it. Not with panic, not with helplessness, but with clarity and courage. One, we need to push for informed legislation, not just reactionary bans. Right now, we're in legal limbo. A few states are tiptoeing toward regulation. Some companies are setting internal boundaries. But there is no cohesive national, let alone global, legal framework that addresses voice cloning in a comprehensive, enforceable way. That's a problem. What we need, explicit consent laws that make it illegal to clone someone's voice without permission. Clear penalties for misuse, especially in cases of fraud, impersonation, political manipulation, or harassment. Regulatory oversight on platforms that host or sell voice cloning tools, holding them accountable for abuses just like we do with copyright infringements or data privacy violations. This isn't about stopping innovation. It's about setting guardrails. So people aren't left defenseless in the wild west of AI-generated audio. And we, as citizens, need to demand that. Write your representatives, support legislation, share articles, spark conversations, because voice cloning is too powerful to be left to figure itself out. 2, we need to be savvier consumers and sharper listeners. Look, we can't rely on government alone, and tech companies, they'll often act only when their bottom line is threatened. So that leaves us, the public, to do what we've always had to do. Wake up, stay aware, learn fast. Voice cloning is blurring the line between real and fake, truth and fiction, fact and fabrication. So we need to question everything, especially in politics, media and finance. If someone's voice says something shocking, confirm it. Look for original sources. Support audio forensics and AI detection tools that are building ways to verify authenticity. Understand digital footprints. If you're a content creator, voice actor, musician, teacher, or podcaster, you need to know how much of your vocal work is out there and how easily it could be cloned. Being informed is no longer optional. It's self-defense. And trust me, the people misusing this tech, they're counting on your confusion. 3, we need to push for ethical standards in the tech industry. Voice cloning developers aren't inherently evil. But let's be real. Ethics are rarely the first priority in venture capital-fueled startups, which means we, as users and buyers, need to raise our standards and demand that tech companies do the same. That means supporting platforms that use opt-in policies, transparent disclosures, and user protection by design, avoiding tools that let you clone voices without consent and calling out those that promote sketchy use cases, encouraging companies to watermark synthetic speech, a kind of hidden signature in the audio that allows it to be flagged as AI generated. And most importantly, holding CEOs, developers, and platforms accountable for how their tools are used, not just how they were intended to be used. Because intentions are cute, but outcomes are what change or destroy lives. 4, we need to talk, like really talk about this. One of the biggest risks of voice cloning isn't the tech itself, it's silence. Silence in schools. Silence in homes, silence on social media. When we don't talk about these tools, we let them evolve in the shadows, shaping culture without public consent. So here's what we can and should do. Educate young people about voice cloning as part of digital literacy. This is not science fiction, it's everyday life now. Discuss boundaries with family, friends and collaborators. Would you be okay with someone using your voice for a birthday prank? What about a posthumous documentary? A commercial, a political ad? Create space for nuance. Not everyone will feel the same way about voice cloning, and that's okay. Some will feel violated, some will feel excited, some will feel confused. That's the human response to disruptive change. But we need to hold space for those reactions and build our policies, conversations, and communities with empathy. The worst thing we can do is shrug and say, well, that's the future now. The best thing we can do is own our place in it with responsibility and reflection. 5, we need to reclaim control over our voices, literally and symbolically. This isn't just about tech, it's about identity, dignity, expression. Voice is power. It always has been. It's how we connect, how we persuade, how we mourn, how we love. And when that gets duplicated, digitized, or distorted, it hits deep. So here's a revolutionary idea. Let's not just protect our voices. Let's elevate them. If you're a public speaker, content creator, or podcaster, start licensing your voice. Take ownership of your vocal identity. Advocate for voice rights, the same way we have image rights, likeness rights, and data rights. Support unionization efforts in industries where people's voices are their income. Voice actors, audiobook narrators, educators, call center workers, and beyond. And symbolically, let's use our voices louder, clearer, and more bravely than ever before. Because the one thing synthetic speech can never replicate is intention, the meaning behind the words, the soul inside the syllables, the humanity in the pause. That's our domain. Final thought for this segment. We are not powerless. Voice cloning may be a freight train, but we're not just standing on the tracks. We can build bridges, we can install brakes, we can design detours that serve people, not exploit them. But it starts with awareness, then action, then accountability. So what can we do? We educate, we legislate, we organise, we question, we protect, and above all, we speak up. Because if the world is being filled with artificial voices, then our authentic ones matter more than ever. So here we are. We've unravelled the technology, we've dissected the lawsuits, we've waded through the ethical grey zones, unpacked the arguments, the anxieties, and the potential. We've acknowledged our power, what we can and absolutely should be doing right now. But after all that noise, the synthetic chatter, the lawsuits, the warnings, the debates, here's what I want to leave you with. Your voice still matters, not the digitally cloned one, not the one someone's trying to mimic for a profit, but your actual voice. The one that holds your pain, your personality, your memories, your story. And that is something no machine can ever truly replicate, because AI might be able to mimic how we sound, but it cannot mimic who we are. This is about more than just technology. Let's not get it twisted. This isn't just about fancy software that can imitate Morgan Freeman, Joe Rogan, or even you. This isn't just about tools. It's about trust, identity, ownership, agency. It's about what it means to be heard, and whether we get to control how we are remembered, represented, and reimagined in a world increasingly shaped by algorithms and automation. We're standing at the intersection of possibility and violation. On one side, there's innovation, a tool that can bring voices back from the past, create more accessible media, and break language barriers in seconds. On the other, there's danger. A slippery slope toward deepfakes, stolen identities, misinformation, and exploitation of the most personal part of ourselves. So what do? We refuse to be passive spectators in our own evolution. The real risk is apathy, not AI. If you're waiting for permission to care about this, consider this your sign, because the worst outcome isn't that someone clones your voice, it's that we collectively stop valuing authenticity, that we start treating people as mere data sets, that we blur the line between human and machine so carelessly we forget there even was a line. But here's the good news. We don't have to go quietly. We don't have to accept every new tool as gospel. We can still shape the future our way by choosing to engage, to question, to advocate, to protect, and most of all, by continuing to speak loudly, clearly, humanly. Don't surrender your voice. Maybe they'll clone you. Maybe they already have. Maybe one day someone will click a button and have you say things you never meant, feel things you never felt, or promote ideas you never believed. But that's not the end of your story, because your voice, the one with breath behind it, with life inside it, still has power, and power doesn't vanish just because it's copied. So don't surrender it. Use it, protect it, honour it. Because in a world echoing with simulations and replicas, the real ones will always cut through the noise. And if you're listening to this right now, you're still one of the real ones. So speak up, speak out, and don't let the machines do all the talking. This is Cluster Fudge, and I'm Alexandra. Thank you for lending me your real voice, for showing up, thinking deeply, and not shying away from the complicated stuff. Until next time, stay smart, stay human, and stay loud.